Kristen? Miss Andy? Y'all ready to start it off? Okay, Krista, good morning to you. Would you please introduce everyone that's with you and jump right in? And please speak into the microphone so that it will be broadcast on our YouTube channel. You got to push that button, red button, where it becomes green.
Okay,
there you go.
It goes. Special touch. Okay. Thank you. I'll go ahead and get started while they're doing
Please
that
do.
because I know your time is limited. My name is Krista Andy. I'm Executive Director of the Board of Tax Appeals. And here with me today, I've got Sarah Fox, who's right there in the middle. She is chairman of our board. Mr. Will Green Poindexter is an associate member of our board. And then Denise DeRossick to my left is with Cornerstone Consulting, and she assists us with our fiscal and compliance matters. So first, thank you for letting us come and visit with you today about our board. As I said, I know the time is limited, but just for those who may not know exactly who we are and what we do, I thought I'd give you just a little information, just a sentence or two, just to explain, explain who we are and what we do to everyone here. Our board was created by the legislature in 2010 to replace the State Tax Commission. We have 6 total employees. We have 3 members of the board, and those are appointed by the governor. We have 1 executive director. We have an appeals officer, and we have an attorney, a staff attorney with us. Our office is separate and apart from the Department of Revenue, and we were created as a quasi-judicial board to hear taxpayers' appeals from any orders issued by the Department of Revenue. So we operate a little bit similar to a court, although we're under the executive branch, not the judiciary branch. And our, of course, members are called members, not judges. But we hear all kinds of tax matters. We strictly deal with tax, and they range. We have individual income tax to corporate income tax, franchise tax, sales tax. We have ad valorem tax issues that deal with entities that are governed by the Public Service Commission, so things that involve, pipelines, railroads, airlines, things of that sort. And we also hear any protests that have been issued or that the ABC has issued against permittees, which is the alcohol beverage control. So we hear a variety of tax matters, and most are extremely complex. However, we do not collect any taxes, and we do not collect any fees. So we are strictly funded by the general fund. So that's why we're here, because we need an appropriation that will meet our needs. So I know that we've given all of you a handout, but I know that all of you, I've got kind of notes written on mine, but you were given the budget recommendation. So I decided to kind of, on that very last column is what is recommended. And so I'm going to kind of go down that column because I think it might be easier for you to follow. And I may start talking kind of fast because I want to get it in. But if you have questions, you just ask. But the first line is the salary line, And we're asking for two things. We're asking for our salary increase, and we're asking for operational costs increase. So the salary increase, as you are all familiar, the State Personnel Board has introduced the new pay scale under the Project SEC Squared. And so all that we are asking for with our increase, we didn't have that when we first set our budget, and we knew that, and everybody knew that. But now that we have those recommendations, we are now requesting that those recommendations be implemented. And again, we have 6 employees, only 6. And for 3 of those employees, we are requesting increases to implement that Project SEC2 for the minimum or recommended that I know they're going to be talking to you about separately, but that's the first item. So I'm going to try to go through those 3 briefly. But the first one, just to kind of give you a little bit of background, the budget recommendation from the LBO provides only $481,744 in that salary line item. But the salaries of our current employees, even without the SEC2, we would need and require over $506,000 just to meet what we're required to pay our 6 positions now. So already with what's been appropriated there, we're a little over $25,000 in deficit for just the salary. And just to provide you a little bit of background about us, we have had employee turnover almost every fiscal year since 2016. In 1 year, we were down to 1 staff member, 1, performing the work of 3 individuals. We simply have not been fully funded at the salaries that this complex agency needs in order to function the way you created us to do. So we're very hopeful that with this new SEC, Project SEC Squared, that this is going to really help us get to where we need to be to not only be able to hire employees, but to retain them. So the 3 employees that we are requesting an increase just under the recommendation of the SEC Squared is the executive director. They have recommended a salary of $145,733 for the executive director, and we're asking that to be fully funded. Our executive director is required by statute to be an attorney. Currently, the executive director has a law degree with a master's in tax from one of the top tax schools in our nation and has over 25 years of experience in both private practice and with the state of Mississippi. The executive director, not just with our agency, but I believe it's my understanding across the board, they have not participated in the last 2 3% salary increases that all other employees have. And then our board just feels it is imperative to provide a competitive salary for this position to maintain this level of experience and qualification to our agency. So that's the first position. Second position, other attorney. Currently, right now, we do not have our attorney position filled because the salary set for that attorney under the old pay scale system, $42,000. We cannot hire, much less maintain or retain an attorney at that price, and not for the complex issues that come before our board. We have actually, in order to limp along, we have contracted an attorney, which has, the experience that we need, but we can't, it's only part-time. I mean, we cannot afford with what we're appropriated to function and hire a person in this position in the way that this position needs to be filled and the experience that this person needs. On the chart that we've got in your handout, we have, because this position is not currently filled, the State Personnel Board has not actually set for our particular pen a minimum. So what we've done for your chart is we gave you what the minimum is for the lowest attorney, and that's over $56,000. But that's not good enough for we handle tax issues, and a $56,000 salary and a level 1 attorney that's not sufficient. So we are requesting that we have a level 3 attorney, It's not the highest in the levels that you'll see that the State Personnel Board has given, but that minimum salary is right at $91,000. And that's the minimum. So that is what we are requesting for this attorney pen. We just feel, due to the highly complex issues that come before our board, we have got to have one with experience, preferably tax, and that's what we need in order to function the way you've created us to do. Third position is our appeals officer. Under the new Project SEC2, that position is now titled as a hearing officer 2. That person oversees our docket, schedules hearings, performs paralegal functions, and we are requesting a salary of $45,000 for this position. Now, this position, the minimum for that position is a little over $40,000. Our employee right now is not even making minimum. She's at like 38. And we know we are asking for more than the minimum, but it is lower than the market. And the reason we're asking this, and I have the support of our board, the current employee that's working with us now has been with us about a year. Exceptional. And the last 2 appeals officers have left. And the one left December of 20. The other one left at the end of fiscal year 18 for a higher salary in another state agency. And we have got to be able not only to hire someone, but if we cannot reward our employees in our small tax agency handling these complex matters, to be able to retain them so that they will not leave, it costs us financially to have to hire and retrain. And we simply cannot continue to function if we are placed back in a position for one staff person to do 3 jobs. It cannot be done. So those are the 3 positions that we are asking for you to please, look at those SEC squared recommended implementations for either minimum or what's recommended. And those are the 3 to just get us to that. So that is the salary. And so the salary increase that we're requesting is for the implementation of the SEC2, or SEC squared. The second reason we're here, and I hope I'm not going over my time, I am. I'm going to try to make it quick. The second reason we're here is our operating costs. Do you know? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, absolutely. The total that is budgeted for our operating costs under the recommendation is $39,414, and that is only 7.5% of our total budget, and that is not even counting. That's not even covering the actual budget that we need. We can operate. We simply cannot operate that level of funding. So again, on this handout, going down through the items that are listed there, we have recommended for our travel, or not recommended, we have requested $10,000 for our travel, and we need that to be fully funded. And the reason is we have 2 members that have to travel out of state to our hearings each month, and they incur travel or lodging. And when we looked, Denise helped me, when we looked and researching from prior years, back before COVID restrictions, we were already at over $5,000 just for our members to be able to attend the hearings that they are required to attend by statute. They have to attend those hearings. So we are requesting $6,000 just to cover increase in gas and to get our members here. Our agency can't run if they can't come. So we have to have that. The other increase for travel is there is a national state judges conference that is exceptional. And it is it's the Lincoln Institute of Land Policy, and they host the National Conference of State Judges, state tax judges every year. And we have been fortunate that although it was fiscal year 20 was the last time we were able to send anybody to this exceptional conference, and we were only able to send 2 people. But there's no registration fee to attend. They don't have to, their meals are covered. We actually, when we get that, if we have the funding, we get on there quick and tell them that we want to come, and we get our rooms comped. So we don't even have to pay for our rooms. And so the only expense that we would incur for them to be able to go to this conference is travel. And we just feel it's so important for our members that are, they have to know what's going on in the tax world to be able to attend this conference and visit with other tax judges that are in other states doing the same thing that they do. I mean, the benefit of that is just, you can't describe that. So that's why we're requesting the travel, and that's the $10,000 item. The other item that's listed there, the contractual services, you've got your commodities, and you've got the equipment. So in our handout, we have listed in there why we are requesting the amounts that we are requesting and what that's for. But so just to summarize, because I know I'm past my time, our agency has identified 13 separate line items, which are shown in your handout, needed to meet contractual expenses, many of which, through our fiscal year 2020 appropriation, were either not funded or underfunded. So we are basically asking you to please restore us to where we need to be to actually be able to operate. And just as a summary, we need to restore court reporter costs. We are required by statute to have a court reporter at some of our hearings. And based on prior years, that's around $3,500 for us to be able to, we have to pay for that because we don't collect taxes, we don't collect fees. It's whatever y'all appropriate to us, we have to use to spend on these things, and we have to have our court reporter. We are actually going to have a new board member appointed this year, and we're going to have a bond every year. Well, not every year, that's every 2 years, but we have to have a bond, which is an extra $1,000 that's in our insurance column. We have to have that because we have to put up a bond for our member. We have research expense that we need to be able to do online research, to search cases. We can't do our opinions if we don't have a research mechanism to be able to make sure that what people are coming and telling us, that that's the truth. We also have confidential information because we deal with tax matters. Everything, most of what we do is confidential. We have to be able to shred that. And so we have about $750. That's not much, drop in the bucket, but we have to have that in order to shred our material through our shred it service. We also, because of the position that we've been placed in the past of not being able to fully staff, we have been able to, which is not optimal, prepay some expenses. We've prepaid an IT expense. We don't have that. We don't have that money to prepay, and we have to be able to have computers and software and a management program for our orders and documents. So we have to be able to cover and restore that expense. And then the other is for the purchase of just supplies. We have to have legal pads, pens, paper, Post-it notes, postage, all of those things just for us to, function in the way an office should function. We've also put in for requests for equipment. 2018 was the last time we had computers. So there are one, potentially up to two, or, we've got scanner and even a printer that we're looking like we are on the last leg. I will note in there is, I think, something about a lease. We are not leasing our space. We actually are over at the Woolfolk building. So the only lease expense we have in there is for our multi-purpose machine, which is our copier fax machine. We lease that. So I know that I have taken, too much of your time. No. I certainly want to ask any questions, but I did want to just, I guess, in summary, just because I just feel like it is so important to let you know that our agency is only as great as the people it serves, and are only as great as the people that serve our agency. And our board deals with tax issues that are complex and are very difficult. By the time they get to us, they're hard. And currently, we have an exceptional board that knows the tax law. We have a CPA that has actually worked for the IRS, and he has been president of Mississippi CPAs. We have a tax attorney with an LLM or a master's in tax from New York University. It has been and is still #1 tax law school in the whole nation, serving on our board. We also have a businessman with numerous years of experience running his own business and serving in your legislature. Our current executive director is also a tax attorney with an LLM, master's in tax from the University of Florida, #2 in the nation, tax law school. I do not think that if you asked any attorney that came before our board, any business that comes before our board, or anybody that actually works with the Department of Revenue that comes before our board, I do not think that they would disagree that we have got one of the best boards serving for the agency that you created. And it is a great agency. I mean, it's wonderful. I mean, the mission that we have, the purpose that y'all have for creating us, we think it's great. But we can only do what you created us to do if we are funded with the funds to maintain these great people. And in addition to that, we have got to have funding to have an attorney. We have got to have another attorney in our office at the $91,000 to help us
I want to
with
ask you a
these
question about the
Yes.
attorney position. Have you
Yes.
accounted for payroll expenses and PERS and Social Security and health insurance in that request? The 566 includes the extra?
The 566
Payroll.
does include the fringe, but
Fringe.
that's just for the current salaries. That's not for the SEC 2 salary increases.
But on your last page of the handout, it is.
The 506 is what it would cost if you gave them full funding for the staffing that they have now. And that's the attorney at 56 that's vacant.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay, so I'll reiterate, the 506,000 number that we gave you does include the fringe, but that's at the current salaries. So it's not giving them the salary raises that are projected by the State Personnel Board.
But that is, right?
Yeah, so what we've asked for is a $618,000 for salaries, which would fully fund them at SEC 2, plus a little bit more for the tax appeals hearing officer that staffs the office.
At the 45 request versus the 40. And Senator Michel, on the last page of our handout, that number is listed in a little schedule.
Okay, thank you.
On the salaries.
Oh, great.
Where it says budget needs. So we've got it listed, the salary
There we go.
by line item that corresponds to, I like to have a visual. So our request corresponds to what's here on the last page of your handout.
Okay.
Just so you have the numbers.
Great, thank you.
I just want to reiterate one more thing. So Krista has given you a very detailed information on the budget. The reason she's done that is because this agency has been underfunded every year that it has existed. So they needed to tell you what their needs are. Instead of justifying an increase, they wanted to tell you why they needed to expend where they are. Every year that they've had turnover, they've held their position open for 3 months just to fund the agency's expense. They moved out of rent to save money. The next year, that money that they saved was taken out of their budget, not put back in for them to use other places. So the reason she's given you so much detail is to let you know that this is what the needs of the agency are, bare bones, and you've never funded them at that level.
Okay, we thank y'all very much. We need to move to the Real Estate Commission next. Thank you for all y'all being here.
Thank you.
All
And
familiar
sorry
faces.
for the time.
Thank you. Mr. Prater. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, next we're going to hear from the Mississippi Real Estate Commission. And as a real estate licensee for 38 years, I want to brag on our agency that we've been blessed to have some great continuity. And Mr. Prater, how many years have you been with the Real Estate Commission? 23 years, and that's after a successful career in appraisal that I'm very aware of as a MAI appraiser. So thank you for being with us today. And we appreciate your service.
Thank you very much, Senator Michel. What is being handed out is I have 10 copies of something for the, from the Real Estate Commission and a like number from the Real Estate Appraisal Board. I think you put me in the right slot because I don't believe I'm going to take up the 30 minutes that were allotted for the commission and the appraisal board, so maybe it'll get you back on track if you have others.
No, thank you. We go into session at 10, so that would be much appreciated. We're going to have to leave whether you're through or not.
Well, we're going to be through before 10
Good,
o'clock.
thank you.
Are you ready for me to start?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Okay, one of the handouts that you have is for the Mississippi Real Estate Commission. I think, as all of you know, we are, in fact, a special fund agency. And what you have there is a couple of pages of just iteration of what we want. Then there's a copy of the Legislative Budget Office recommendation and a copy of our salary guidelines that would put the request for the salary increase to the amount that would make it commensurate with what the Personnel Board has recommended. And then at the end of it, just for your edification, I have included financial summaries for the last 3 years, and the one for this current fiscal year is on the LBO recommendation. The thing I'd like to point out to you is that during that time period, we have not asked for any increases in the budget request. The only increase that shows on any of these actually for the last 5 years is just what the Personnel Board has had. The amount of the funds that have been allotted, we are averaging spending only 76% of those funds. And there are two things on the Real Estate Commission that we would ask as action items. One of them is, based on the handout that you have showing the salary schedule, we would just simply request that it be funded at the level that the Legislative Budget Office has recommended, and that those salaries are shown on the Real Estate Commission handout as far as how the 16, or actually 15 employees of the Real Estate Commission would fall into each of those categories, and this is based upon their recommendation, and that's all we're asking for. There is nothing there. We have 16 members. There are 15 individuals there, but the executive directors of all the state agencies are excluded from that. There's nothing in there for the executive director. The other thing that we would ask for on the Real Estate Commission, back in February of last year, whenever we had the ice storm, one of our 2 vehicles was parked in the parking lot, and a utility vehicle came into the parking lot, lost control on the ice, and totaled our car that we'd had since 2000, one of the cars we had, this one since 2005. And the Legislative Budget Office is not recommending a new vehicle. We requested one. I think what we requested was a RAV4, a Toyota, which had $23,000 as the cost of it. We just requested $25,000. They did not approve that request. We're asking that you look at that to approve a $25,000 or less vehicle. And we
Is that for your investigators?
Yeah, for the investigators. We have 2 investigators and 1 legal counsel at the commission, and now we're down to only 1 vehicle. We really do need a second vehicle. That's all that we're requesting. We're totally satisfied with everything that's recommended. We don't have any problems with anything, Mr. Chairman, as far as the Real Estate Commission is concerned. But I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have. I would ask that you note, let's see exactly where it is. I don't recall exactly where I put it in there, but as of yesterday, it's at the very top of the second page. As of yesterday, the Real Estate Commission had a balance in the state treasury of roughly $3,115,000. And we have been, in my opinion, very good stewards of the licensees' money. We do not receive any money from the general fund, and we receive no money through taxes of any sort. The only income we have is that, and that is roughly equivalent to 2 years of operating income right now. If we did not receive any additional fees from any of our licensees or through any of the processes that we generate revenue, we would be able to operate without any help from the general fund. And that's all I have on the Real Estate Commission side, unless you have some questions, Mr. Chairman.
Members?
The vehicle that was totaled, was there not an insurance policy in place from those at fault or the agency that would have covered the replacement?
No, sir, we just totaled it out. It really had very little value. It was a 2005 vehicle with actually 119,000 miles on it, and we just took the salvage value.
Mr. Wiggins?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for mentioning this. On your handout, you say as of January 1st, the balance in the Treasury is $3,115,000.
That's correct.
That's your balance?
Yes, sir.
What is that there for? Other than being, let me put it, set aside, being good fiscal stewards, that's $3 million in the bank. What is that there for?
It is there based on the statutory requirements that we had to report it, and that's how much we generate. I will tell you the real estate commissioners right now are going through a process by which they're looking at lowering the fees to all of the licensees.
So that's my question. What is this $3 million obligated for?
Nothing.
So, and there's no limits on what you can spend that on?
Well, yes, sir. Whatever you tell us, we can spend it on.
So we can tell you to use that $3 million to buy a new car, for example?
Oh, yes, sir. We have no constraints other than the fact that we can't spend a penny that's not legislatively approved by your committee and signed by the governor.
Last question, based on my numbers, based on your appropriation, that of an average of $400,000, that $3 million basically is 7 years worth of budget.
Well, yes, sir, it is.
Okay, which is maybe why you're looking to reduce the fees?
Yes, sir, it is. And I will tell you that 8 years ago, we were in a very similar position. We had approximately $2,600,000 in the state treasury. We lowered all the fees for all real estate licensees for 2 years. It got back down to 1 year's of operating expenses, which is around $250,000. And when it got to that level, then we increased the fees back to where they were, and now we're at $3,115,000.
You have no objection or no problem with that $3 million being spent for some of the things you're asking for?
Oh, no, sir, and neither does any of the commissioners.
Okay, thank you.
Has the board considered, with the amount of cash on hand, maybe paying for some of the CE courses that are required from the licensees? Could that be another way you could use some of that money?
It is,
to
as a
provide
matter,
free CE?
It is, as a matter of fact, we just spent $30,000 on that. We just held courses on the Gulf Coast, here in Jackson, and in Oxford. It cost us roughly $30,000, and we had 900 of our licensees that attended those particular courses.
What's the current requirements for aging out or experience from not having to take the CE courses?
70 years of age and 25 years experience as a licensee.
Do you have any suggestions on anything amending that in any way whatsoever?
I don't really think so. I believe that the money is better served if it wouldn't change our income at all. It's better served by having us have individuals that present CE courses. And right now we're in the process of hiring a part-time contract worker, and we're going to put on some CE courses, free all around the state for licensees.
Okay, great. Let's go to the Real Estate Appraiser and Licensing Certification Board now, please.
Mr. Chairman, on the Real Estate Appraisal Board, we do not have any request other than the fact that we had a individual who was the Deputy Director of the Appraisal Board retire about a year and a half ago. We attempted to rehire somebody for that position. The salary was so low that it was vacant for 18 months. Last session, we asked the Appropriation Committee for the Senate and the House to increase that from $52,000 to $75,000, which they did. And as of January 1st of this year, we have now hired somebody for that position. They have a bachelor, a master's, and a doctorate degree, and a doctorate of laws degree. And we're asking that the salary and fringe be just what we have at the very last page of your handout, that salary recommendation in there. And we don't need anything else except for that salary to be included. It was not included in the legislative budget recommendation because the position was not filled. So that's all we need. And I will tell you that just like the Real Estate Commission, the Appraisal Board, the amount of money in the state treasury is roughly between $850,000 and $900,000, which is a little more than 2 years' operating expenses.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just let me gather what you just said. You just raised the salary $25,000, and now you're asking for an additional raise to bring it up to $90,000.
Well, we're just
on a position you just hired.
That is correct.
Man, I'm in the wrong business.
Yeah, I understand. That was the Legislative Budget Office and the Personnel Board recommendation. Actually, when we hired this individual, we did not really know exactly what the salary was going to be. They had told us that they thought it would be $75,000, but then they did the realignment in the middle of it. So all we're doing is just asking for the Legislative Budget Office recommendation and the Personnel Board recommendation. I don't suspect that we're anticipating very many more changes in the salary structure since this last one was the first one I think most of the employees have had in the last 6 or 7 years.
Any questions? Mr. Chairman?
Senator Hobson.
Well, Mr. Prater, thank you so much for being with us
Thank you.
today. We sure appreciate your knowledge and running one of our great state agencies. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Meeting's adjourned.